Do you want your new Apple Watch Ultra 3 to last longer without turning off the features that you actually use? Things like screen brightness, full GPS accuracy, smart notifications, and still be able to make it through a busy day or four. Today I'm going to show you my no compromise setup that will add real hours, potentially days, and not just hype. Hey guys, Tim here, all things tech, fitness and travel for busy people like you and I. If you're new, welcome. If you're returning, thanks for being a part of this. Appreciate you being here. Now, by the end of this, we're going to have a 10-minute checklist that's going to boost battery without switching to low power mode or being able to power down on your workouts. I'm going to put chapters below, so if you want to bounce about, feel free to do so. All right, let's go straight into some good stuff. So first up, all of the settings we're going to be manipulating here. We can do it from the watch. I would encourage you to do it from your phone using the watch app. It is just way easier to do that, especially when you're old like me and your eyes don't work as well, or you've got fat fingers, something like that. Okay, so quick ground rules then before we jump into this. First of all, the display, always on display, we are keeping on. The GPS tracking, we're going to leave that at its full setting, so full dual GPS gizmo thingy. Heart rate tracking, that's all going to be switched on. We're going to have notifications, and I'm also going to be using Siri. We will, however, be tuning the display brightness and adapting how we use our cellular or 5G data connection, and as well as background app refresh. We're going to look at some watch faces and also a few sneaky little battery drains that they're in there and they add up that maybe you don't know about. Okay, here we go then. Step one for that screen brightness. Now the Ultra 3 gets insanely bright when it's outdoors, which is great. We absolutely can use that. But when you're indoors, you just don't need the sun at midnight, if you like. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to fire up your Apple Watch app. As you can see, we're on the main screen here. Scroll to display and brightness, and you'll see that I've got my display brightness set all the way to the minimum. The screen will adapt to the environment you're in, but you don't need it to be a landing beacon for commercial aircraft. So turn that screen brightness all the way down. Next up, we're going to look at the always on display, and like I said at the beginning, that is on. Leave that on. We will set the wake duration, so scroll a little bit further down. We'll set this to 15 seconds. I don't understand why it goes 15 seconds or 70 seconds. That feels like a bit of an odd jump in time for me, but there we go. So set it to 15 seconds so it's not having a big old party every time you check the time. Quick glance, fire it up, 15 seconds later, shuts back down. Screen stays on, but it's not doing loads and loads of work. Now, even out in the midday Mediterranean sunshine on the beach, running these screen brightness settings, you will be able to see everything clearly, no problem at all. A big battery win here for step number 2 is your cellular 5G data connection. Now keep this turned off by default. Day to day, your watch will talk to your phone via Bluetooth and will also use known Wi-Fi for data, which is super efficient for the battery. Only turn on your cellular data connection when you genuinely need to use it as a standalone device. Now again, we're going to go back to the watch app here and we're going to scroll till we get to mobile service as it is here in the UK. We flick that on, but you'll see that currently my network provider does not support this on the watch, so it's not something that I use. However, if you have got this set up, you can toggle it on and off from your phone. You can also toggle it off in the control center on your watch, which for this one would be where I'd suggest you do it. You could just very quickly, you hit that button, turn it on, turn it off. Simple as that, as you need it. Now, a little trick for you. If you're traveling, keep data roaming turned off and only enable it briefly if you truly need it. With your phone nearby, Bluetooth is ultra efficient, so make sure your watch and your phone are on your known Wi-Fi networks, whether at home, at work or at the gym, so the watch isn't constantly hunting for signal or weak or poor signals. If your carrier supports it, then you can turn on Wi-Fi calling on the phone as well. Now this is great in low signal buildings where cellular kind of stays off the watch, so keep connected to the phone through Bluetooth and or make sure you're connected to known Wi-Fi networks. But if you're heading out without your phone and you want calls or maps, then cool, you can very quickly just toggle it on, get what you need, do a quick check-in mid-long run, for example, if there's no Wi-Fi, pop it on, and then when you've seen all the information you need to see, done what you need to do, pop that straight back off again. Keep that 5G cellular data switched off unless you actually need it. Step 3 then, and this is background app refresh. So what we want to do is you want to keep the essentials but then turn off the things that really aren't essentials. Now, background app refresh is brilliant for things like weather or calendars or your fitness, that kind of stuff. But most third-party apps, they don't need constant privileges. Now, I'm going to let you into a little secret here. When I was just running through the settings on how to turn all this kind of stuff on or off, I discovered something I'm going to show you now. And this legit has not had any impact on me whatsoever. Okay, so we're in the watch app. We're going to scroll to general and we are going to find background app refresh. Now remember, I didn't actually realize I'd done this. Mine's turned off, completely turned off. It still does everything I need it to do. I haven't noticed any kind of lag in any of the apps, complications or all that kind of stuff needed doing. So my top tip here is just switch those background app refreshing systems off. I don't think you actually need them. And while we're talking about these apps refreshing and all that kind of stuff, we need to cover off notifications here. So come back to that Apple Watch home screen on your phone, tap on notifications. Now this is how I have it set up. The notification indicator pops up on the watch, that little red dot that you're familiar with. I've turned off the whole show summary when locked. I don't need or want to see a summary. I've turned off the tap to show full notification. I just don't need that. And show when wrist is down is again turned off. I don't need any of that. I did, however, go through all of the different apps and I've either set them to allow notifications, send to notification center, or turn notifications off. And when there's an option, I've said to mirror my phone. So what's happening is everything's going through to the phone. I get a little buzz on my wrist, the haptic, that little indicator pops up, but I don't see a message unless I actually want to see that message. So background app refresh and then notifications. We're going to control that app by app. Most of them I've got, if we look on messages there, we've got mirror my iPhone. So whatever my phone is going to do, that's what the watch will do. That's a really, it feels counterintuitive to turn that all the way off like I have done, but trust me, it works absolutely fine. Go through each one, decide which one's important to you, and then just tell it to mirror your phone. Okay, step 4, live complications. The different faces that you've got on the watch, they're all a silent and persistent drain on the battery. And again, do you really need all those fancy things on the screen? Now those complications, when they're updating live, they can look cool, but like I said, they're just sipping away at that battery all the time, then you don't really need it. So here's what I'd suggest you do. Pick a watch face that you love, but limit the live data to 1 or maybe 2 different complications. So you'll see here my main watch face is this one that I popped up on the screen. It is very simple, digital time. At the top, my top center complication is today's date, and the bottom complication is the battery. And that's it, that's all I've got showing for that watch face. That's my main one. I do have, if we're going out for dinner, something that looks a little bit more classy, but the same thing, simple watch face. We've got date and we've got battery on there, and then I've got a couple of travel fitness based ones for as and when, and I can just pop between those. But for the most, it's the digital watch face or the analog watch face with 2 complications going on there. If you've got multiple tiles, complications refreshing every few minutes, it's going to be pulling that battery. And be honest with yourself, do you really need all that information flapping up on the screen all the time? Probably not. I mean, maybe you do, but probably not. Okay, then on to step number 5, and we've got motion, haptics, and the watch wake behavior. These are 3 easy wins that are really, they're not going to impact the user experience of this thing at all. So here's what we've got. We've got wake on wrist raise, keep that on, but be deliberate. Remember, we set that to 15 seconds previously. If you're coaching or waving your arms around a lot, like if I'm in the gym coaching, that kind of stuff, having that switched on all the time is going to be properly pulling the power away. Alright, then we're going to move on to haptics. So we can find that one here. We scroll down to sounds and haptics, and you can see the settings I've got here. Ringtone and alerts, I've got that set to silent. I don't need this thing ringing on my wrist. I can feel it buzzing. Automatically adjust volume, well, doesn't really need to worry about that. Right, haptics are on their default setting. You've got off, default or prominent. Just leave it on default, unless you're going to be in some form of busy moving environment or anything like that, where you need a little bit more attention seeking from the watch. But most of the time you don't need a little jackhammer going on your wrist every time you get a message. Then we pop back out of that screen and we're going to drop into accessibility. You can see the settings I've got here: voiceover off, zoom off, on off labels off, reduce transparency, I've turned that on. That's another little power drain that will happen there. Increase contrast, you don't really need that unless you absolutely want it. Minimum brightness, right, this is an important one. This is kind of a double negative, not a double negative, but it doesn't make sense in the way that it reads like it's done, because you probably think, well, I should turn that on. So the minimum brightness, what it means is this will increase the minimum brightness of the display when it automatically adjusts to ambient lighting conditions. Turning it on may affect battery life and long-term display performance. So don't turn it on, just leave it turned off. Reduce motion in accessibility here. This is optional, I just leave it off, but if you're ultra battery sensitive, you could give it a go, but I haven't really found it's made much difference, if I'm honest, so I just leave that off. That is step number 5, so motion haptics and the weight behavior of the watch. Okay, next up then is step number 6, and this is all to do with workouts and keeping the accuracy of what we're tracking exactly where we need it to be. We're keeping full accuracy, all right? There's no low power workout mode here. A few tweaks will still help, like before you're going on a long session, download music or podcast to the watch so that you avoid streaming. Use one continuous workout mode on the watch when you can, instead of chopping and changing. For the most part, if you're in a gym, even if you were doing a cardio workout, you could still leave it on weight training, and if you're doing a weight training workout, you could still leave it on mixed cardio, for example. It's tracking your heart rate and working out things from there, so you don't need to keep bouncing around between workouts. Pick one on the watch, that's going to cover most bases.
So if we're working out indoors, or when we're working out indoors in the gym, we don't need to worry about GPS tracking, but we absolutely should, when we're tracking our workouts, make sure that we're getting accurate data. So we want that heart rate monitor doing everything it should be doing. We don't want to shortchange, We don't want to shortchange ourselves. We want to get the most amount of data so we can track progress. However, when we're exercising out in the big, scary outdoors, then we absolutely want all the sensors working. So not just that heart rate, but we want the GPS tracking, and we want it tracking at its full power. We want to be getting as much information as possible from there, or I certainly want to be able to get as much information as possible from there, so that I can see lots of detail that will help monitor my progress. That's what I use it for. Now, there is an option to reduce the amount of GPS readings that we get, and also reduce the amount of heart rate readings that the system will take, or the watch will take, while we're in the middle of a workout. But for me, that just feels like a bit of a compromise. Why would I want a less accurate track of what I've been doing? So then we can leave those sensors operate at a full power and still maximize the full potential of the battery life. So we're getting the maximum benefit from it with zero compromise. We can still do everything we need to do and get a huge amount of battery life out of it. And that's the aim here, is set this thing up so that we can get the most use out of it without compromising on the good stuff. So those low power settings for GPS and heart rate, don't switch those over. You don't need to worry about it.
So indoors, GPS really doesn't add that much, so why would we pick a workout that has GPS active? We just don't want to run navigation apps in the background when we're indoors. Another little trick we can do is end workouts promptly, so it is not stuck in an active state for longer than it needs to be. This thing is going to track the reduction in your heart rate whether the workout is active or not. So your recovery will still be tracked as best it can for a wrist-worn heart rate monitor. As soon as you finished your workout, stop the workout, save it. The watch will do the rest for you. You don't need to leave this thing running for your cool down unless of course you want to. Now, since we're talking about workouts, we're going to change tack very slightly here. I'm a personal trainer and nutritionist, so I'm putting together some simple training programs that will run with the Apple Watch and your iPhone. You can track them properly using those native apps. Think things like losing weight and toning up. Maybe you're starting to think about, or you're going to do your first high rocks and you want a program to follow with that. A beginner strength program, all those kind of good stuff. If you're interested in those, just write the word workout in the comments. Keep an eye out, hit that subscribe button, and coming up very soon, we're going to get early access to all that kind of stuff. So think about fat loss starter packs, that kind of stuff, some nutritional guides about how to keep it simple and not get bogged down in all that kind of detail. All the good stuff that gets dismissed or forgotten about because marketing takes over. So keep it super low level, super simple and effective, stuff that works. Hit the subscribe button, comment workout, I'll keep you posted. Okay, number 7, and this is all to do with the sleep and focus modes. Sleep focus mode, this is a properly stealthy little battery saver that again is not going to impact your daily usage of this watch at all. What we're going to do is schedule our usual sleep hours. Now what happens here, when we click into that sleep schedule, the screen will dim or shut down. There'll be fewer notifications come through, fewer wakes and all that kind of stuff. So in order to set that schedule, if you haven't done so already, we can do it from the watch app again. We're going to scroll into the apps. We're looking for sleep. There it is. We tap on sleep. And here you can see I've got track sleep with Apple Watch turned on. I've also got charging reminders turned on as well. That just says that if it gets below a certain percentage just before you're about to go to sleep, it won't track your heart rate, so it just gives you a nudge to just top it up if you need to. And the one we're looking for here is manage sleep in focus settings. So we tap that on, that takes us through to our sleep focus setting, and we can set up the schedule. So you can see my schedule here is very simple. At 9:30 p.m. it turns on, and at 7 a.m. it turns off. So for that period of time, the screen's off, minimal notifications. In fact, I've actually got it set so that I only receive notifications from certain people, which happens to be my 2 daughters and the amazing Zoe. Everything else gets binned off, well, not binned off, but ignored. And if a call comes through, again, it only comes through from my favorites, people I've set. So you can set that up, set it for whatever time works for you. Obviously, the longer the time duration, the more battery saving you're going to get. Choose the one that's right for you. Okay, 60-second recap then, very simply. I'm going to run through my notes here. We've got the display. We're going to set that to minimum, always on. We're going to set it to on, and we're going to set the wake duration to 15 seconds only. Radios, that means cellular, 5G, that kind of stuff. Turn it off by default, toggle on only when needed. Bluetooth is on and known Wi-Fi networks are on. Roaming abroad is off. Wi-Fi calling on the phone, so we can use those known Wi-Fi networks to make and receive calls. Background app refresh, as we discovered, and I genuinely didn't realize everything was turned off. Turn it off. Don't worry about selecting different apps. You will not notice a difference. I haven't, so I don't think you will either. So turn background app refresh off. Faces, watch faces. Choose 1 or 2 that you're going to use. Modify them with the information that you want, but remember that the simpler it is, the better. Little power drains on there. Haptics, we've got medium set for that minimum little buzz on the wrist just to notify us that something's going on. Workouts, we're going to download music and podcasts. If we want to listen to something separately, we're not going to stream it. We're going to stick with 1 workout recording session on the watch if possible, and as soon as that workout is finished, we're going to stop the app. the heart rate sensor will still do what it needs to do. Sleep, the sleep focus mode, we're going to make sure it's scheduled, and we're going to tweak it so that it suits us, so we only get notifications from the actual people that we want to do, and you can decide who that is. As you saw, I've got my 2 daughters and Zoe. I'm not interested in anybody else outside of that when I'm in those hours. And then we've got the travel setup is to use Wi-Fi if you can, but also drop the watch into airplane mode as often as you can, particularly in dead zones, because it's just going to be hunting for signal that maybe it doesn't really need. Alright then, if this has helped you out, then let me know in the comments below, and likewise if you've got any other tips or tricks on how to manipulate the settings on this so we can maximize battery life but not compromise on the usefulness of this device, let me know in the comments below. What's the biggest difference for you that's worked in your normal circumstances? Now, if you'd like those follow along Apple workout training plans, weight loss, toning up, high rocks prep, beginner strength programs, then make sure you've hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on those. And if you haven't seen it yet, watch this video next, where you'll see me put my Apple Watch Ultra through a real world battery life test where I get 72 hours in normal use. Alright, as ever, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.